All right, and we are back. This is part four of the Flash reading order. So before I forget to mention it again, that character who I was talking about, the one who looked like Sonic the Hedgehog, or was supposed to be kind of like an avatar of him, his name is Crackle. Anyway, another quick thing I wanted to mention too before we move on is in The Fastest Man Alive, one thing that I will say about this series that I think is really good is the covers. The covers, I think, are great. Specifically, this cover right here. This is one of my all-time favorite covers. This is a great cover. This series had a lot of really good covers. That's one of the positive things that you can say about Fastest Man Alive. So anyway, now, what happens, though, at the end of Fastest Man Alive is Bart ends up losing his powers and he ends up getting killed by the Rogues. So Bart is gone for a bit, which means now we have no Flash at all. Which leads us into Justice League of America, The Lightning Saga, by Brad Meltzer and Geoff Johns. And this is the story, and this is how Wally comes back. Interestingly enough, the story kind of teases at first that it, thinking oh, we're going to get Barry back. But they instead bring Wally back, which is cool too, and I love Wally. So yeah, now Wally's back, and now we also do resume. So Fastest Man Alive is done, and we resume, and we go back to the Flash Volume 2, which brings us to this trade here, which is the Flash, the Wild West. And one of the things that happens in here, of course, is that before Wally leaves, he ends up, basically what happens to him is him and the family basically end up going into the Speed Force, but then also they end up on some alternate dimension planet where Wally and Linda do decide to just retire and start to raise the children, raise Jay and Iris, who we found out at the end of Geoff Johns' run that Linda was pregnant with them. The thing is, though, is, of course, as you notice, you'll kind of see, oh, these kids look pretty older. With their connection to the Speed Force, they end up having accelerated aging, which is something that they are concerned about, but, of course, they eventually solve within this run. But this is how we basically get the kids to significant ages as opposed to them having them as toddlers. But this, anyway, this collects the Flash. I know it starts at 231. I think it's 231 for 237, I believe. Yes, this collects the Flash 231 through to 237. And also, interesting enough about this story is that this is written by Mark Waid. Mark Waid comes back one more time, which is perfectly fine. And, yeah, sorry, I just got a text, so I got a little distracted for a sec. But, yes, Mark Waid comes back one more time to write one more time for his baby. And this will be the last Flash story that Mark Waid writes, at least for a bit. I mean, this is the last as far as, a full arc goes. But, yep, this is it for him. And then after this, there is a bit of a gap. But not really much happens. They're kind of more like filler stuff. There's a couple of stuff that happens, but anything too significant. I mean, it would be cool if we have it collected one day, but it's not the end of the world that we don't. But anyway, now we move on, though, to... No, there's another event. Gotta get it. Hey, Red Def. We move on to another crisis. It is Final Crisis. And, yeah. So, what happens, though, in this crisis is that while usually the other two crises we end up losing a Flash, in this one, we get one back. We get the boy back. We get Barry Allen back. Oh, yes. Which then leads us into one of my all-time favorite runs. And specifically this Ami. This is the Ami I have been waiting for them to collect forever. I've always said, if there's a dream omnibus that you would want, this would be it. This is Geoff Johns' second run, which covers Barry's return. And This collects, so it's The Flash by Jeff Johns, Volume 3, and this collects Final Crisis Rogue's Revenge 1 through 3, which was a tie-in to Final Crisis. This also collects The Flash Rebirth 1 through 6, and The Flash Rebirth is my all-time favorite comic book. I love this story to death. I love the art. I love the story. I love what it does with Barry and all the other Flashes and everyone coming back together, bringing back the whole Flash family. I love this story so much, and I'm so happy to have it in this like oversized format. This also collects Blackest Night, The Flash 1 through 3, as well as it collects The Flash 2010, which yes, they we go into The Flash Volume 3 now, which collects 1 through 12, as well as The Flash Secret Files and Origins 2010, number 1. And, of course, also collects Flashpoint, which I'm sure most casual viewers know that story. Basically, everyone knows that story. It is a good story. I don't think it's the best Flash story like a lot of people think so. I think most of the casuals or most of the non-really big comic fans, or at least it's probably the most mainstream Flash story. And, of course, it seems to be the only story people can tell. And, obviously, that's the story we're going to get for the movie coming up soon. But yes, this collects Flashpoint 1 through 5. And yeah, and obviously, as you notice, now we're going to go into a Volume 4. So there was only 12 issues of that for The Flash. And now we're at the point where, oh, just real quick too, just to add this I have as well. This is the World of Flashpoint featuring The Flash, which this is basically just tie-ins to Flashpoint. This is specifically the Flash-related ones. So there's about 3 little miniseries here. There's one called Citizen Cold, where Captain Cold is actually Central City's hero, or at least you think. And there is another series about Gorilla Grodd. This also has a Heatwave, I think, is involved in it as well. I don't remember this one as much. And then the other one, of course, which is Kid Flash Lost, which is cool because it's Bart basically reacting to all the stuff going on in Flashpoint and him getting out of the Speed Force. And the story actually ends pretty cool because it actually ends with him seeing Barry running back and reversing everything that happens in Flashpoint. So Bart ends up running with him. But then, of course, we don't see Bart for a while after this, which leads us into the DC reboot, The New 52. And New 52 is special to me because New 52 is how I started reading comic books. This is how I got into comics. And this run right here, before we get into what is my ultimate favorite run, this was my favorite run. This was my all-time favorite comic book run for a while. This was really, really good. And it still is. I mean, another run did beat it, but it's still really damn good. And I always enjoy going back to this, especially for the art. The art by Francis Manapul is fantastic. But anyway, this is the start of a new era for Flash. Now Barry is back. We don't know what happened to Wally, or at least we're going to get another Wally. It's a little complicated, as comics usually are. But yes, so this is the Flash Omnibus. This is actually the first ever omnibus I bought. And this collects, let's see. Does it not say what it collects? I mean, I know mostly what it collects. Alright, I guess I gotta look and see the contents inside. Let's see. Alright. So this collects the Flash 0 for 25, the Flash Annuals 1 and 2, and yeah, that's it. So it's basically the first 25 issues of the New 52 run, which is a really good run. And I think it's also another good starting point if you want to get into Flash, especially if you want to get into Barry. This is a good starting point. I mean, I would suggest reading Flash Rebirth and Flashpoint and all that, but you don't really need to. You can just go right into this, and you'll know stuff about Barry and see where it takes you and see if you really enjoy it. Also, another thing, too, this is what I was mentioning before about Guerrilla Warfare. This one has a story called Guerrilla Warfare, which is another fantastic story. It's a fantastic Grodd story where Grodd ends up invading with a bunch of other guerrillas. Guerrillas in Central City. It's really good. Actually, the show basically adapted it, and I think they also called it Guerrilla Warfare as well. So yeah. So this is part 4, and I'll see you guys at part 5.